This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
Leaders basically breathe passion and purpose and meaning and cohesion into their organization. They're kind of the life force of that organization, bringing it to unity and alignment behind a shared purpose, vision, and mission.
Well, it is an honor to meet you, sir. You've done a lot of research in this area. It's something we haven't covered, so I'm really excited to have you on the show to talk about it. But just first of all, get us started. What is spiritually intelligent leadership?
Well, spiritually intelligent leadership is basically the ability to cultivate and embody qualities of spiritual intelligence and bring them into the domain of leadership. So that immediately begs the question, what is spiritual intelligence? So spiritual intelligence is analogous to emotional intelligence that most of us have heard a lot about, particularly in its effectiveness and contribution to leadership and other domains of life. So what is emotional intelligence? The ability to draw on emotional resources and information to help manage our own and others' emotions. By analogy, spiritual intelligence is the ability to embody and draw on spiritual resources that have been hailed by all the world's spiritual traditions and bring them to daily life and to our work, our leadership, our shopping in the supermarket, driving in the freeway, and our relationships. And these would be qualities such as purpose, vision, trust, gratitude, joy, integrity, humility, higher self, intuition. So these are all qualities that help us be inspiring leaders. As you pointed out, these were some of the top qualities that Bain Company study identified: being a servant-oriented, less ego-oriented, being centered in yourself, showing up with presence, living in integrity. So if we go back to what is leadership, leadership fundamentally is about inspiration, and it shares root with the word spirit, which is the life-animating force, the breath of life from Latin. And that's what leaders do. That's different than being a boss or a manager that makes decisions and allocates resources. Leaders inspire. So, leaders basically breathe passion and purpose and meaning and cohesion into their organization. They're kind of the life force of that organization, bringing it to unity and alignment behind a shared purpose, vision, and mission.
So I understand, I get it. So I love the fact that we can equate it to emotional intelligence, because I think most people on this who are listening in understand that. They probably haven't been thinking about spiritual intelligence, but all the things you talked about, purpose, vision, your values, these are something that's different than emotional intelligence. This is something that's to our core. So explain the difference between, say, spiritual intelligence and religious beliefs. Is it the same? Is it different? Or do they come possibly from religious beliefs depending on who the person is?
Well, they're very different, as you highlight. Spiritual belief is a belief. I can believe in God. I can believe in the afterlife. I can believe in reincarnation, whatever it is. It might be a religious or a spiritual belief. Spiritual intelligence is not a belief. It's also not an experience. You might have an experience of oneness. You're walking in the forest or you're meditating, and all of a sudden your ego dissolves and you feel one with the entire universe. That's an experience. So there's experience, there's belief. And then there's spiritual intelligence, which is embodying these qualities. Now, where it ties into spirituality or religion is that these qualities of purpose and service and trust and gratitude and integrity and forgiveness and compassion and humility and so on have been hailed by all the spiritual traditions throughout the world. So regardless of your cosmology and theology, if you believe in Jesus, you believe in Muhammad, you believe in the Buddha, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But these traditions have said, practice compassion, have a purpose, practice gratitude, live with integrity, live with humility. These are the qualities that, and then embodying them in daily life, it's where it's at. So that's a key point, because my clients, I've worked with over 100 CEOs, and many of them have built companies with billions of dollars in revenues and thousands of employees. Some have been devout religious of a particular tradition. Some have been quote unquote spiritual, but not religious, which is very popular these days. And some have been devout atheists, if I may say. They have no belief in anything spiritual. It sounds woo-woo to them, but they can cultivate humility. They can cultivate integrity. They can cultivate a sense of purpose. They can cultivate their intuition. They can cultivate trust, beauty, joy, all these same qualities, and coming as an atheist and still develop their spiritual intelligence, so to speak, and see the impact and how they get more inspired, more empowered, and have greater impact in their organization with everybody around them.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I'm thinking about is, so I'm a Christian. I've been a leader for 30 plus years. And I do believe that those values that come from my background sort of kind of reflect in my life, right? So I would imagine, for me, I think it would be a little more straightforward thinking through this. But how does, like, if maybe you're not religious or you have a mixed, religious background, like a lot of people do, how do you develop your spiritual intelligence? How do you begin to think through that and start establishing what are the things that are important to you?
Yeah, great. So as you pointed out, if you're coming from a tradition like Christianity for you, so maybe for you, it's easy. How do you connect with your life force, your essence? Maybe you pray to Jesus or you pray to God, you feel spirit within you. And that's from there, a lot of these qualities will naturally emerge of humility and gratitude and compassion and so on, because you're taught that. And someone else might have a different entry point. But if you're an atheist, then the main point is to connect with the core of your existence, your life force and your essence. And you could simply do that right now, even as we're speaking on this podcast. You could just connect with your life force by feeling the breath of life. So just the rise and fall of the belly and the chest with each breath in this moment. And then adding the pulsating flow of the blood as it pulses through your arteries and vein in your heart. And so as you feel the aliveness in the body through the breath and the heart rate and the pulse, you feel grounded in your feet and your legs, rooted into the earth, that where we come from, Mother Earth. And then with the vertical alignment of our spine, that feels like an antenna, a channel of energy with our head pointed in the sky and the heavens. And when you include all of that, all of a sudden you feel yourself suspended and being a channel of energy between the sky, the heavenly realm, and the earth. And then when you're rooted in this experience of your life force, then you're centered, then you're grounded, then you're empowered, then you're inspired, you're breathing life. The life force energy is pulsating through you. And from there, you could start working on each of the qualities you want to cultivate. So you might focus for a month on the quality of purpose, or another month on the quality of gratitude, another month it'd be, on the quality of compassion or forgiveness. And you can bring those into your daily life with the intention of cultivating that quality. And it's a lifelong journey of applying these qualities, embodying them, practicing them, and we become more and more. It's not like, oh, I believe in God, and now I'm going to easily forgive everybody, and I'm going to be the most compassionate person, and, etc. As you know, and most of us know, we fall off the horse, we get on. We fall off the horse. That's how we learn to bike. We scrape our knees a few times, and over time we get more stable and we get more centered. So it's an ongoing practice. But it starts with connecting with the core of our existence, our unique, authentic self. You can call it your spirit. You can call it your life force. And everybody knows we have a life force. We're not dead bodies. We're not dead meat.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I like what you say there, because it's not something that probably happens overnight. It's like, like, again, as a Christian, it's a lifelong journey, right? You think that you understand it, it's like chess. You knew how to play the game on day one, but it takes you a lifetime to master it. I think this is something that it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, well, it's rewiring your neural networks. Basically, it's not under, you can understand it. So spiritual intelligence is not cognitive intelligence. You can read my book and you can understand, and that will get you on the trajectory. But unless you do the exercises and the practices, you understand it mentally, but you don't embody it. So going back to the fundamental definition of spiritual intelligence, the ability to embody these qualities. So just because I understand compassion and forgiveness are important, it's hard to forgive sometimes. It's hard to practice compassion. So it takes a concentrated effort and a practice to come back to these qualities day in and day out so that we rewire our neural network. And I think ultimately it's a bit of a Copernican Galilean moment for each of us when we understand, up to Copernicus, you look at the sky, you see the sun moving. So we think that the Earth is the center of the solar system and the sun is circling around it. Then Copernicus and Galileo, as my friend Steve Farrell at Humanities Team pointed out, realized, no, there's a Galileo moment here, a Copernican revolution. We go through life, we think we are at the center of the universe, our ego. But the Earth actually is an offshoot of the sun. The Earth came from the sun, and the sun is what sustains life on Earth. It wouldn't continue. Life will not continue on the Earth without the sun. Same with our unique self. We think we're the center of the universe, our ego. But when we understand, we understand that actually the universe is around us and it's what sustains us. You can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it cosmic consciousness, but just call it the universe. And when we take the ego out of the center of our universe, then we understand we're interconnected with our team, with our organization, with our community, with the broader web of life. And we're just a cell or an organ in this broader organism. Just like my heart is not thinking I'm separate from the lungs or whatever, and I can keep the best blood, most oxygen-rich blood from myself, I'll feel good for a second or two. But then the lungs will stop functioning and I won't get so much oxygen, so it won't work. So we have to understand our interconnectedness into this broader system, this web of life that we're a part of, and take the ego out of the center of our universe.
I love that. And it's something I talk about a lot, just in terms of, how to become a better leader. And one of the things, it's not about you, right? I mean, that's one of the big things you have to learn as a young leader coming into it. You think, well, it's all about me, and it's not. It's actually all about your team. And that transition takes a while when you first get in there. But you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how does, as you develop your spiritual intelligence, how does that help you as leader? You mentioned ego goes away. You feel part of a system, part of a group. What are some other things that help you as a leader when you develop this?
Well, I mean, you have a deeper sense of purpose and a sense of calling, and you know why you're here. So as you said, it's not about you. You're not trying to aggrandize your own ego. You're focused on your mission and on the vision you're trying to bring. So as Gandhi said, you become unstoppable when you reduce yourself to zero, because you're wholehearted, devoted to that vision, that mission, that purpose. And then you have very little or no fear, or if you have fear, you have courage. It's not about you. You're just really doing everything you can for that purpose and that vision. And then people feel your egolessness and your service orientation. And as the Bain study highlighted, people that work with leaders that are servant oriented are going to be that much more inspired. Nobody wants to work for someone's ego. They want to work towards a vision of a better world that they're inspired by. And the other qualities of spiritual intelligence, like integrity, crucial for leadership, is walking the talk and living in alignment. There's nothing worse than a leader that preaches certain values, but it feels like a hypocrite. And so it's this integrity. It's also trusting that what we're doing, and having the faith and the hope and the optimism that what we're going to work towards is actually going to be realized. And there's impact that we're going to have. It's not hopeless. We're not just working towards something and the universe is kind of hopeless and hostile place and nothing's going to amount to anything. Nobody's going to put their best energy if they don't believe in the possibility of a better future that we can build together. So all these qualities of trust and hope and optimism and gratitude and integrity and humility, compassion, that people feel your care. So they're not going to care until they feel you care about them and about the mission, and then weaving the team into this fabric, a sense of community, and everybody then is aligned behind those same values, the same vision. And these days, there's a loneliness, a epidemic that the Surgeon General and for people declared, and for people, work is their biggest community. We spend more and more working hours at our work environment, and now working with Zoom and remotely, there's so much loneliness and isolation. So the spiritual intelligence says, no, we're in this together. We care about each other. We have a shared sense of purpose, a shared vision, a shared mission. And it's not about our individual egos. We're not trying to be right. We're trying to do what is right. And when we shift that perspective, then everybody's more motivated and feels a sense of belonging and commitment and identification with the organization and the mission.
It makes a lot of sense. Help us through the mechanism, because one of the things have always struggled with, because I've always thought I was a servant leader if I thought through my career, and but then I also realized that I was always goal oriented. So I was always about the mission and the people. So I was always connected those two together. So you can't, give up on the mission, and you can't give up on the people. It's sort of the and so I've sort of think of myself more as transformational leadership model. But how does when because you're doing the right things for the people, like you mentioned, as a servant leader type of model, you're taking care of them, you're watching out for them, you're creating a safe environment for them to operate in so they can be creative. But how does that help the team achieve objectives? That's the one thing I've always struggled with servant leadership. It's all about the people, but then there's got to be the goal as well. So how does that connect to the goal?
Yeah, well, that's great. I put a slightly different spin on the idea of servant leadership, and your servant, not just to the people, but your servant to your mission, your servant to the vision, your servant, if you want to use religious language, your servant to God. You're servant spirit. You're not servant, you're not serving the needs of your employees at the expense of the mission. You're serving spirit, you're serving God, you're serving your calling, and the people are part of that. So it's not one versus the other. That's the other thing about spiritual intelligence, is you go beyond either or thinking to a both and you hold these paradoxical viewpoints. Paradox is the entryway to paradise, some like to say. So it's servant leadership. You're servant to the it's wholehearted devotion to the vision, the purpose, the mission, as well as your team. And it's not either or.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that you brought that up, because I can think people could hear our conversation and think, well, that's great, but I got to make profits for the quarter, right? And so you're saying it's all connected.
Yeah, well, the most profitable companies are actually companies that cater to multiple stakeholders. When I went to Harvard Business School, it was like the old school of like companies exist to serve shareholder profits.
Yes.
And that's great. And shareholders are one of the stakeholders. But what the research has shown is that leaders and companies that cater to multiple stakeholders, so the shareholders are one, customers are another, employees are another, the community is another. When people take that holistic point of view, actually everybody wins, and there's better shareholder returns in the long run.
Absolutely. This is something we've talked with other guests, is that there's a shift. Like the 80s and 90s, it was shareholders primacy, right? It was all about shareholder value. And I got my MBA in the 90s too. So it was all about shareholder value. Now it's stakeholder value. It's all about stakeholder capitalism, right? Because right now, employees will walk out on you if they don't believe you're serving your values. They're going to walk out. If your community is upset or your customers are upset, they're going to protest your products. We've seen that a lot in the last 5-6 years, right? And now even the governments are getting more involved with looking at, are you living up to your purpose with ESG scores and other things like that? Are you living your purpose? So they're all connected. And I think you're right. We're moving away from pure shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism these days.
Yeah, I think it's just a more holistic view of the system and the understanding of the interconnectedness of all these stakeholders. I mean, you can't run a business unless you're catering to your customers. They have to be happy, and you can't run a business unless your employees are happy. And it's not just about pay, especially when we're moving to a more knowledge-based economy. It's not just people on assembly line you can command and mechanize what they're doing and put robots and whatever. It's just you need their judgment, you need their skill, you need their creativity. And so they have to be motivated, they have to be inspired, they have to believe in what they're doing, and they're wanting personal and professional growth. They don't want just paycheck. And all the research shows that, ultimate employee motivation, pay is much further down the hierarchy of people's needs and desires. And as you point out, people can walk across the street and go work elsewhere. So, and it costs so much time and money to bring new people on board and train them. So, having a committed, cohesive team is so important, ultimately for shareholder value.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that because it is connected. And we're seeing that more and more now. And it always was connected, but we sort of ignored it in the 80s and 90s, I think. We sort of said, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't a good thing we're doing, but we've got to make profit because that's our sole objective. So I think
Yeah,
now,
I think
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, but
I
now I
was
think
saying
it's more up there. It's more people are more conscious about the idea of doing good as well as making money.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's also linked to the fact that more people can be characterized as knowledge workers, and they can't just be commanded. And you can't. It's also linked to this shift from a command and control model. So you and I have served in the military, and the military function was on a command and control model, which is powerful and effective. You're in battle. You don't have a lot of time for building consensus and calling team meetings and doing team, whatever. You have to say, hey, do this, go there, run there, take that. And that's efficient and effective in battle. But you can't run a knowledge-based economy in a company that way, where you need creativity and participation. So, we're moving from command and control model to, a more holistic view of leadership and emotionally intelligent leadership and now spiritually intelligent leadership. And that all ties into this idea of stakeholders, and motivating people through softer skills than just telling them, do this, and overlooking their shoulder. That just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work anymore. So that's why we have this podcast. That's why we bring on guests like you, because people need to be aware that that way is dead. That way is dead. There's a new way of doing it. This is a way to be able to help inspire your team, right? And that's a big part of it. So what are some practical strategies, maybe exercises, things that leaders can do? You talked about sort of connecting yourself, your body to the earth and to the sky. You mentioned seeking your core, your spirit, your life force. What are some other strategies that leaders can take to sort of begin to develop their spiritual intelligence?
Well, gratitude is a basic one. And, there's research that when you practice gratitude at the end of the day, just paying attention to a few things, counting your blessings, improves your mood, improves your happiness. Now you can apply it in the context of organization. If you just make an experiment for the next week, each day, make a point to find 3 things that you appreciate about other people and tell it to them in person and live Zoom call, or sending them an email. Hey, I so appreciate it. I'm very grateful for the way you showed up and stayed late last night and did an amazingly beautiful job in this report or whatever. So sharing appreciation, tuning into, learning how to tune into one's intuition and doing exercises to do that, tuning into our higher self and future self. Like when we're facing a challenging moment, always thinking about it. Okay, what is this difficult situation calling forth in me? What qualities? You know,
Mm,
courage, resolve, integrity, etc. Because in the midst of the chaos, we forget what is important. And then thinking, okay, asking myself, okay, 15 years from now, my future self that is going to have lived through these challenges and these moments, what if I interview that person who's wiser, more compassionate, more successful, everything I want to be in 15 years, and I ask that future self of mine, how should I address this moment? That untaps instantaneously wisdom that is already within us. So,
yes.
you know, there are many techniques, and my book goes through lots of exercises that you can use. And you could see the impact on that. So you could see if you start showing appreciation and gratitude, you'll feel how people respond and the quality of your relationships immediately goes up. Practicing visioning
Mm,
whenever you enter a task, whether it's a big project, what is the outcome you want to see, and visualizing it being successful. But that can be applied in a meeting. You're walking into a meeting and reminding yourself, what is my intention and how do I want to feel? And imagining success. It's a classic strategy in sales. You visualize, a salesperson will walk into a meeting and visualize that they're walking out with some agreement for next step or getting the order. And that brings in the right energy. And with that intention, you are more present and you build the connection, and you uh, are much more effective. So, for each of these qualities, whether it's vision or gratitude or higher self, you can do these practices and cultivate that.
that's fantastic. Good practical advice. I really like the idea of, your future self thinking back like 10 years from now, what would have been the right decision? I love that
What would
idea
have been
because
important about it?
yeah,
What would
yeah,
have been, what qualities are going to be, how are you going to, regardless of how the outcome is, what is going to make you feel that you lived in integrity this moment?
yeah, yeah.
That's super important.
Because I think in a way, I mean, obviously we as business leaders, we have a responsibility to run our businesses and meet our objectives as a business. But I also think that we're on earth to impact the people around us. And I think I want people to say, I worked for John, and he was the best boss I ever had because he cared for me, he looked out for me, he helped me grow, he helped me achieve my personal objectives. And so I think we have an obligation not just to achieve the results, but also to impact the people around us, and positively impact people around us. I think that should be part of our calling as well. And I think it would sound like if as you mature in your spiritual intelligence, this becomes more important to you. Is like, what's my legacy going to be as a leader?
Exactly, exactly. And all the psychologists that studied human development, look, as we mature, moving into an age of generativity. And what's most important is how we pass on the values and the learnings to future generations, be it our children or people we mentor or people that were under us. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't take the money and the fame and to our grave and to whatever, but what most people on their deathbed say is what matters is the quality of relationship and the impact they've had bringing more joy and love into people around them. It has a ripple effect also. Imagine
Mhm.
when you bring that energy into your team at work, a person goes home and is much happier, and then that ripples out to their family, to their partner, to their children. If you give them a hard time and they go home and they're miserable, that's going to affect their home life, and then that affects the other people around it. So we're all part of this web of life, and we're all impacting each other. And when we realize that, it just invites forth this quality of care towards our relationship and other people in our lives, be they our employees, be they our customers, be they, whatever it is. I mean, when you're designing a product or whatever, you think, okay, well, how is that person going to use it and how's it going to affect them? And And is it going to be a smooth, pleasant experience for them or not? And same with people on our team.
I love that. I love that. That's just a great message there about the ripple effect. I think that's something that can help you really understand this concept is what's that effect going to be to the people around you and their families and so on. So I think it resonates out from us as leaders. Very important. Yeah, I love that concept. So what final message would you like to leave with our listeners about the subject of spiritual intelligence?
Well, as I said, one is that it's a lifelong journey and it's not, and you can enjoy the journey of growth and learning and deepening into your life force and your essence and connecting with your spirit and connecting through that to other people around you. So when you're connected, interconnected, and interconnected, then you're inspired, you're connected, there's more love, more joy in your life. And so that's one thing. Secondly, the research shows that that results in much more effective, powerful leadership and better quality of life. The research also shows that people with greater spiritual intelligence have greater satisfaction with life, better quality of life. There's better financial results. I neglected to mention this, but in my own doctoral research, it showed that leaders with greater spiritual intelligence lead teams with greater morale, more commitment, and lower turnover. Other researchers showed that they actually produce better financial results,
Mm.
even when controlling and more important than emotional intelligence, and better individual productivity, better team productivity. Banks, there's been a study looking at different banks, and the banks where the average employee's spiritual intelligence was higher than others produced better financial results, better return on assets compared to others. So the point is it contributes to the bottom line, to the quality of life, satisfaction of life. And there's been even studies that look at its contribution to relationship success and marital satisfaction. So this, as you cultivate these qualities, not only does it make you a better leader, more inspiring leader, more powerful leader, more connected leader that produces better results, but it makes you a happier, more fulfilled human being. And those qualities permeate all your life. You know, you're more present at the dinner table with your family and your children as opposed to, you know, being distracted. You bring this quality of intention and presence and gratitude and love and joy into all your relationship. And then your life is just so much more rewarding and fulfilling.
Wow, there's so much to this. I think this is really a powerful subject, and that leaders, you're listening in here, you're hearing this. He might be hearing the concept of spiritual intelligence for the first time, but this is something that's really powerful. Something that if you haven't heard it before, you need to dive in deeper on this subject. So, Yosi, how can people find out more about you, this new book, and all the services you offer?
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. So, yeah, I have a website, as you might imagine. It's called yosiamram.net. That's kind of my umbrella website, like my name, Yosi Amram, Adam, Mary, Robert, Adam, Mary. I'm spelling it because oftentimes people misspell it with an N, but it's two M's like Mary, and it's .net, not .com. There's a yosiamram.com, but that's one of my website that has to do with my psychotherapy practice. But yosiamram.net is my umbrella site because under that there's my coaching, my CEO coaching. There's also a website related to assessment. So it links you, you can get a free assessment of your spiritual intelligence profile that tells you these are your strengths and these are your opportunities, gives you some tips for development. There's a free assessment that you can get. There's a page from my book. And I'm also starting now monthly free gatherings for awakening spiritual intelligence. And the first one is going to be the week of Valentine's Day about the quality of love. And these will be community building events that are free. So each one will focus on one quality. So anyway, all of that in my book is available through yesiamram.net. And people can reach me through there. And I'm delighted to be here. And thank you for your interest and your good questions. And hopefully all of us can cultivate these qualities in ourselves for our own benefit, and being kind of Wi-Fi extenders of these qualities and this frequency of love and joy and connection. And I think all of us and all humanity and can benefit. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. We're going to put links in the show notes for all of Yosi's resources. And again, listeners, did you hear there's a free assessment? There's something free here. We're going to specifically put a link for that free assessment. So if you're wondering, hey, is this matter to me? Do I have a handle on my, my spiritual inventory? This will give you a chance to look at that and kind of understand it. And again, all of Yosi's resources will be in the show notes. So go ahead, click on there. And again, if you've had some questions about it, if this is confusing you, or you're thinking, wait, what about this? What about that? Reach out to Yosi. He's more than happy to answer your questions, steer you in the right direction, give you resources to be able to answer your questions. So I highly encourage you to do that as well. Yosi, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You've introduced a really interesting topic to us, and I know we've just scratched the surface, but I think it's something that we all can need to dive in a little deeper, try to understand and see how it applies to each and all of our lives. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing the subject.
thank you. Thank you. What an honor and a privilege and delightful to be here with you. And I appreciate the work you're doing. I think it's so important that elevating our leadership, it has so much effect on the organizations, the people and the communities and people's well-beings and at work and everywhere else. So thank you for the good work and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.